All right, and we are live and in living color, feeling like sunshine today. Look at you, sunshine.
Yes, I'm walking on sunshine.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. I want to say hello, good evening, spectacular, sensational Sunday to all of you out there in Facebook land who are watching us live. And I want to thank you for joining us for this session of what? Madness and miracles. If this is your first time hanging out with us, I am Jaaz and I'm her mother.
My name is Genia and I'm her daughter.
Yeah, and together we are
Mad
Mad Miracles. And so, our Mad Miracle fans, if you've been following us for a while, you know this is about mother and daughter miracles, creating magnificent and divine transformation, what we call Magnificent. And we have launched a new series, and we invite you to follow us along in this series of Madness and Miracles. You know, we kicked off some years ago doing Miracle Minded Monday. We talked about that on our kickoff of the launch of Madness and Miracles. And that was really about providing tips and tools of how to live a miracle minded life. Well, let me tell you, that doesn't happen by accident. And it is not an always occurring event. It's a practice, and there's some madness that takes place to get to the miracles. And Genia and I decided to what? Unmask, unmask to really share our journey and to invite you to be a part of the journey with us, because that's really all what it's all about. And so glad to have Teresa and Kevin. Hey, girl, good to see you. And Kevin's back with us. Uh, we may look familiar. Those of you who were following us, we were just on a minute ago talking about another event we have coming up that we'll address. But we're going to dive in with what this is all about, unmasking. Matter of fact, we'll do a little unmask. Years ago, I started working on a book with that title, Unmasked. And then the journey and trajectory that it took me on, because to unmask is really about self-reflection, self-identification. Where am I in this process, in this place called life? And how authentic and true am I being to myself in this journey? How am I showing up? Really, that's what unmasking is about, is like how we show up. And Genia and I have had this beautiful, you know, it's a beautiful winding river, right? Our winding river in our relationship of finding ourselves, where are we in our journey, and where does that journey ebb and flow? Where does it connect? And so we had this crossroads in our journey, and looking at where are we and how do we get to our next level. And the whole conversation, as we were talking about madness and miracles, of unmasking came up. And if you saw our clip last week in the intro of, you know, what are the different types of mask, and what does it mean to unmask? So Genia, what is it for you? What does it mean to unmask?
To unmask is just to let go what we're hiding from. Like, honestly, plain and simple like that. And we know what we're hiding from. It's not easy. When I say plain and simple, it's not that it's easy though, but it is identifying, you know what? I'm hiding from this. Why am I hiding from this? And then you have to be ready, because we're not always ready to unmask, because sometimes masking, it makes us temporarily feel comfortable.
Right.
It's a comfort to us until one day when we realize, like, wow, I really want to let this go, because I feel like if I let this go, then ... whatever that is for you. Right. And a lot of times it's freedom. That's really what it allows you to do, is just be free from whatever it is that you are holding yourself back from, because it's our own limitations. Yes, externally, we're impacted by everything that's in our world. But ultimately, we do get to choose when we mask, what we mask, and how long we hold on to it.
Right. So that being said, as we talk about masking, what you just mentioned, one of the things that I up in when I first started in this process of looking at masking and what it meant is
Uh-oh. We've been kind of having some technology glitches. Okay, so until she comes back on, I'll talk a little bit about unmasking. And just, okay, let's see. Oh, there she goes.
All right. So great. I appreciate you jumping in there. But what I was going to identify is that there are really two types of masks that we ultimately end up putting on, though we may put different labels on them. But the first mask that we're exposed to is a protective mask. When we're on the plane, what do they say? Put on who? Your oxygen mask first, right? So we put on mask of protection to protect. Isn't this an interesting time to be talking about masks, people? How many of you have ordered your designer mask, right? We're now
That's good.
masking from the world for what? Protection, right? So we started out saying, hey, let me just go get a paper mask. Let me just put on something so I can protect myself. And that's the first form of a mask that we put on, is that mask that protects the image that we saw ourselves as, protecting our emotions. And then that mask, when we don't use that mask to better understand ourselves, when we use it to hide behind rather than protect, it becomes a deceptive mask. And it's the image, as we call our representative to the world. So we go from a protective mask to a deceptive mask. And that's what we are going to really explore as we go through this journey. And it's my belief, I contend that the first mask that we put on is a mask that we put on based upon a perception that we bought into as a child, that someone put on us. Someone, and I want you to think about, and this was, the invitation we issued last week when we were on, to say, what was it that somebody said to you? You may have been 3, 5 years old, and they said, you're a girl, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or you're black, or you're fat, or you're skinny, or you're ugly, or you're too pretty to be smart. Whatever that was that somebody said to you, that was a contradiction to who you believed yourself to be. That's the first mask that comes. It's like, oh my gosh, they said I was ugly. And they showed me all of these pictures that don't look like me, that they say represents beauty. So now I'm going to put on this mask, right? There are so many nuances, and sometimes it can be something that can be as minor as playing what appears to be minor, as playing hide and go seek. And then the other little kid says to you, you're too fat to run and hide, right? And it's just a quick little comment, and kids bounce back, right? You're like, oh, and then you go and you play the game and it hurts you. But there's something about that lingers. So that's that first mask. So as we're exploring this, Genia, we had a series of questions that we want to really examine. And the first one is, what was your mask? Wow. I've been thinking about this. And, when I first started the book, so I'll share. And I'd love to hear your feedback, because I remember when I first thought about this, and like I said, it might be something that sounds really minor, but I remember the impact of it. And I was 5, and I was at my dad's, and we were working on, we were writing letters to God.
Mm.
And in my letter to God, I just, one thing I've never been short on is imagination and dreaming, and just really dreaming big. And I was writing to God about everything that I wanted. And not just, but, wow, I want to be happy and live on the ocean. I'm just like writing this letter. And it was myself. And interestingly enough, I don't even remember the other kids because they were inconsequential. One was the daughter of one of my stepmother's friends, and another was a cousin. And so there were three of us. And when we read our letters, my letter, in their opinion, was too self-serving. You're like, that's really selfish. Because I just, I was like, this is what I want, Right. I asked, I'm 5. I didn't know we needed world peace. Okay. So I didn't ask for world peace. I didn't ask for oneness, the one among the human race. God, I just want to go and I want to play on the ocean. I want to ride the waves. I want to bike. I turned God into Santa Claus. Right? I told God everything I wanted. And I remember that feeling. So when I talk about putting on that first mask, the first mask that I ever put on, and I realized how it impacted my life going forward, is the mask of playing small. Don't dream too big. What are you doing asking for that? You ain't got no business asking God for that. You don't deserve it. Who do you think you are? Right? And so I remember this little girl kind of shrinking a little bit, just kind of like, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody that anymore. I'm not going to share that. So I would hold it in without expressing it out. Though I would have the big dreams and I would continue, there became this veil of like, ooh. So that was my first mask of watering myself down. And it was all of the things I wanted to do. I kind of resembled as I watched my daughter. Well, I want to be ballet. I want to do ballet and soccer. And, I wanted to experience life. And so I started hiding from the outward expression of really playing full out. Yeah. And so the interesting dynamic, and which I invite other people to really think about, is like, ooh, what was that really, that little nuance that, some of you may remember the story of the princess and the pea. What was that pea that caused that irritation, went throughout life? And I was like, ooh. And so now it's so great to see my dear Adrian. Yes, because Adrian, I want to give a shout out to Adrian made a comment on her podcast talking about me, where I am in my life, in that when she looks to somebody that just like goes for it, she thinks of me because I don't let age hinder me. But that's something that came from that little girl that was, who says I can't play whatever? Who says I can't? It was breaking through that. But it wasn't until I met, and I'll later share that as we go along, but it was an encounter that I had with myself growing up with other people that was a confrontation of justifying who I was. And so it's something that I go back to the protective mask that protected me. Then it became deceptive, that later on, by doing the inner work, became a mask that served me, that I could take off my mask, that, right now, today, I am completely okay with letting the world know something that my mama used to hide behind. Let me tell you, my mother died when she was 69 years old. Nobody knew how old she really was except her daughter and maybe her other children who may have questioned it. Her doctor didn't even know. My mom hid behind that. Like, really, her driver's license, she lied about her age the whole time, right? She would not tell anybody. And I'm like, 3 or 4 years would, for me, the blessing that whatever year I have is a blessing to be here. So yes, I am sensationally 60 and I'm happy to be here. Right. And so I have no issue shouting that to the world. That's like, it doesn't define me because I get to choose what that means. But I grew up seeing what it looked like for my mom to hide behind the mask of that age and then not showing up in my truth.
Okay, so we have a little pause on her side, but I think she was coming to the end of her story. Thank you so much, Mom, for sharing that. Oh, here she comes. Okay.
No, I was saying, I said perfect time for a glitch because that was the segue.
Okay, I was like, I think
yes, yes. So I'm going to pass that baton to you in terms of what's the first mask that you identified putting on.
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
In terms of like the first mask that I put on.
Well, I think you just shared it. Your hair.
Well, but I can't say that was my first mask because I don't know. But I know that a mask that I held onto for a really long time was my hair. And so, for many years, like I struggled with my hair and I would see other women and they had this gorgeous hair that was theirs, it was natural. Of course, you had beautiful hair. Shoot, my brother did. My dad used to talk about the back of his hair and his little curls and stuff like that. And I remember, now this is the thing, it's hindsight. When I unmasked, it was not me reflecting on my younger self and the impact. It was me in the present saying, I no longer want to be in this place. So I'm going to start from there and then I can move backwards because that makes more sense for me. So last week, that was it for me in terms of my mask that I put on about my hair and my shame. With Create a Magical Day, I talk about kicking stress out the door to create more joy. And it doesn't mean we won't have stressful moments, but what are those areas that we can say, you know what, I'm done with you. I really don't, you're not adding any value. And so last week, it really was just I'm ready to unmask. And with my hair, I said, wow, I just keep having issues with this. We're on quarantine. So I took out my little crochet braids and, I'm washing, combing my hair, moisturizing and all that. And I was like, oh, so I'm wearing my wraps on my head and my wraps are looking lopsided because this side is shaved and this side has hair. It was looking a mess. And I just had this moment of, I think I'm just going to shave it off and start over, which I've done before, but I've worn wigs. So only people who were really, really close to me knew. And I wouldn't even change out the wig because I wanted people to think it was my hair. The only thing I would do is change the color. So it's like, oh yeah, I got my hair colored, but it was the same wig style because I don't want people to know. Of course, our people knew that exactly. Indy Irie said, I am not my hair, but it's very hard to live it. You are absolutely right, T. And so many years, like, it's like, yeah, I'm not my hair. I remember when my best friend Adra, she shaved her head and I was like, yeah, you go, girl. Let me put these crochets back in my head. Let me tell you guys even how the crochet came about. The wig that I have been wearing for, I don't know how many years, Heather, I don't know if y'all remember Heather. Let me tell you, they stopped selling her. I could not find her anywhere. And I am so serious when I say I went into a panic because I was like, what am I supposed to do? I can just switch up wig and I can't get my hair in my braids because I have these bald spots in my head. And I was sitting at brunch with my girlfriends and Jamaica always talks about he calls it the sassy auntie hairdo. So cute. Where half of it's shaved and the other half is like, it's either curly or straight or whatever it is. And I was explaining to them about that. And they were like, oh my gosh, Genia, you could do that. We can go to my barber. Now, this is a Sunday. we can go to my barber right now. He can shave the half of your head and I can put your crochets in. So I was like, bet. But let me tell you what's interesting. Heather, right?
Right.
Let me tell you what's interesting. When we were going to the barber for him to shave my head, I was like, oh my gosh, that means people have to see like all of it. Like I have to go in there. I can't have a wig on. I can't, like I walked into this barber shop, a grown man's barber shop. My hair just everywhere. And he had to shave half of it. And I'm standing in front of all these people. And I mean, it was very, very hard for me, very hard to do that. But in my mind, I was like, this is temporary because now I'm about to get my crochets and I'm gonna be looking cute again. But it was always about hiding. It wasn't just for me being cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love to be cute. And let me tell you, I used to switch my hair up all the time because I just wanted to be fun. But then it got to a point where I was just hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And so last week I said, you know what? I'm going to shave it again, but this time I'm making it part of my story. And what I mean by part of my story is so people do know, like, that was something that I was struggling with. And I struggled with it for years. And it was funny because my mom and I talked later and she said, I've been struggling with it since I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize that. She's told
Right.
the story, but then that's when it made me start thinking back, like, ooh, I remember when I begged for a jury curl because I wanted softer hair. I was tired of getting my hair pressed, like all these different things that I wanted done to my hair because I never liked my hair. And at this point, it's like, honestly, I don't know what's wrong with my hair, but it was that control thing. I'm like, I can't control it. I don't know if it's alopecia. I don't know if it's iron deficiency. I've been to every kind of doctor and nobody can tell me. And that made it even harder for me because I'm like, I eat healthy. I do this, I do that. Why? Then it was like, why? So last week I was like, you know what? We're about to do this. And I went on a bike ride and I was like, God, talk to me. Do I make this my story?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I can find joy in this because let me tell you, even when I shaved my hair before, oh, you best believe somebody came over. Somebody better tell me first so I can put my wig on. But even
She's telling the truth.
Yeah, but listen to this. I remember when one day I was like, I'm just going to just be brave and I'm not going to put my hair on. And my daughter, Lisa, her friend came over and she said, oh my gosh, is your mom sick? Mm-hmm. So of course, that put me right back into a place of shame. Mm-hmm. When I shaved the side of my head and I had my cute little crochets on the side, I went to work and I had people saying, well, I don't really like the side of your hair where it's shaved. Again, me being cute, it still sent me into shame. When I was wearing Heather, I had a friend girl saying, girl, you don't need to wear that wig, rock your hair. Again, it sent me into shame because I'm like, I can't. Mm-hmm. So shaving my hair was helping me to release that shame for me and being able to walk around with my hair like out, like I got my cute little flowers on, but just totally bald. That has been so empowering for me. And let me tell you, I held on to that mask for so long. And I feel like when I said free, I feel so free that I no longer have that mask. Then that's when I could go back to the stories of what you were just saying, Mom, you remember when you were 5 and ...
Right.
That was my mask. Now right. I could look back and I could say, oh, I could see it came from, my mom said when I was, actually, it's cute when she does it. Mom, imitate me. It's cute.
So when Genia was 3, Genia came home from her little private Montessori daycare where she was one of 3 Black kids in the whole school and said, Mommy, I want white hair. I'm like, oh, you want me to dye your hair white? You want me to change the color? No, I want my hair to be white. I want it to do this. But it won't do that. I'm like, what's it doing, Genia? And she put the little sheet on her hair. I want it to do like this.
I was trying to whip my hair back and forth.
Yeah. She wanted to whip it, right? And I knew exactly where she was coming from. Been there, done that, because I had some of the same issues. Genia, just like I did with my mother, Genia compared her hair to my hair to say, well, mine isn't like yours. Well, I could say mine isn't like my mother's. There was always another identification that was different and, quote, better, some of my sister girls out there know what it means to grow up with the good hair, bad hair concept. You already know. Yes, that's right. She was Whoopi, honey. Before Whoopi did Whoopi, Genia did Whoopi. I want white hair. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so we went through this whole thing of self-esteem building, like, it was like, oh, but Janine, look what your hair could do. And, mommy can put all of these cute little barrettes and we can braid it. And I was like, white hair can't do what yours. You could do both. But again, it was your journey. And I love what Adrienne said earlier, Jania. She said, when you shaved your hair for yourself and you wore your wig, it was huge unto yourself. You were in touch with yourself in a new way. And here's the thing about our mask, and this is what's so beautiful. It's the crowner, the crucifier. It's like when I shared with you, it was like my whole coming out thing, when Adrienne expressed about me, you've heard me say, look, I intend to be the 80-year-old grandmother in the triathlon. Y'all move out my way. let me do my thing. That I don't have a limitation because of my age. There's not anything that I can't do. That comes from somebody saying you can't do this, right? So when we put on a mask, how we choose to address it, and Jania, one of your superpowers is self-love. But you know what? Here's the thing is that we learn in contrast, right? So it's out of the shame was born self-love, this self-reliance. And so this nugget, this final nugget of, wait a minute, this hair thing is really blocking what I'm all about. But that hair thing, that mask, and so this is the ultimate takeaway that I hope all of you can get when you're really willing to face what your mask in. It's going to help you tap into your superpower, right?
I like that.
Yeah. But what we do with the mask is we cover up our superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can't tell anybody that, right? So to release our superpower is to release that shame, that guilt, whatever it was. Because when we talk about unmasking, it is really our ability to tap into our light. Marianne Williamson, my favorite quote in light, once said, it is not our darkness that we fear, it is our light. And that's what we cover up, is we cover up our light, and we go around dumbing down ourselves for the rest of the world because we don't want to shine for the truth of who we are, just in case somebody don't like our shine. Well, if they don't, tell them buy some shades. It's okay, But that's really it. And that's really, what I'm hoping in this journey that we're sharing, even for us, that, I want to be able to unmask more of, what's a light that I've buried? What's more light that I've buried covering up? What's more light that you've buried? And people can begin to see where is the light that you've buried, because that's what the world deserves and you deserve to shine and share. Not just, let me present you with my representative, the image that we think looks good. And we're so busy trying to fix up and present this image that people really miss out on what's golden, and we miss out on what's golden in our life.
And I wanted to say that's key is at first what we're missing out on.
Yes.
Because ultimately a mask, even though it quote protects us, it still holds us back in some type of way. Mm-hmm. And when we're ready, and that's the thing is it's when we're ready. Because how many times have I thought that I was ready and I wasn't?
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't believe that we should force ourselves to quote unmask, because it could be detrimental for your health, like your mental health. So right. You do want to make sure that you are in a strong place. Like when my dad died, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, he doesn't shave my hair. Like I would have been a mess, because then I would have felt like I looked ugly and I would have been sad, So it's like, I would say check in on your mental state before you unmask. If you need support, a group of people, make sure you have that support. It's actually funny because, a lot of people didn't know that I was going to shave my head. I mean, really, Donnie knew. But just earlier that day.
I didn't even know, y'all.
No.
I turned on the computer before I went to bed. And I saw my child going bald live on Facebook.
Yeah. it wasn't a planned thing like that, but I
But it did.
knew that I had supportive community as well, because that was something that was like harder for me. Like Donnie is cheering me on, like
Mm-hmm.
it was funny because Lisa earlier was like, Mom, whatever you do with your hair, I got you, girl. She didn't know that's what I was gonna do still, but she's like, I got you, boo, and then another friend's like, girl, I'm gonna help you grow your hair. But I knew
Mm-hmm.
that I had that support, and that really meant a lot to me. I
Mm-hmm.
was ready to do it on my own because, like I said, no one knew. But having that support, that did mean a lot because, like I said, that's something I held on to for a long time. And I just
Right.
really encourage you. I'm not saying you have to wait to have community, but make sure that you're ready and you're comfortable to unmask.
Mm-hmm.
So then you are in a healthy state, because we already know that, depression exists, anxiety exists, mental illness exists. There are a lot of things that exist. And we just want to make sure that everything that we do in our life, that we're thinking about our mental health as well, which is why, I'll be honest, that was a big part of my unmasking as well, because I was
Right.
tired of judging myself. I was tired of, fearing people judging me. I was tired of, dude, let me tell you, I was tired of waking up, taking off my little cap thing and looking at my crazy hair thinking, oh my God, there's another bald spot. What am I gonna do? I can't get my crochet braids anymore. Like, I mean, I was going crazy. Now, sidebar, it doesn't mean you guys won't ever see me in a wig again, because I
Right.
do like sometimes to like whip my hair back and forth, but it's not coming from a place of shame. It's coming from, I'm free to do whatever I want to do, and I feel good doing that. And that's the thing too. Mom, I do have a question for you. I want
Yeah.
to kind of push it back over to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you did talk about your childhood
Yeah.
and that experience, but how did it affect you in your adulthood? Because, I mean, unless I'm wrong, I don't believe when you were 5, you said, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be like this.
Baby, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, that's why I said that later. Yeah, because it, so even in your approach, it's like you recognize something that's gnawing at you. It's not like one day I woke up and said, "Ooh, when I was 5, this happened." And no, it was going through this process. And one of the things for me growing up, and when I talked about, the whole age dynamic, it was never quite feeling like where I was. My mom used to say about herself, I was born before my time, because my mom was into a lot of the work that we do long before people talked about transformation. Well, for myself, at a very early age, my mom exposed me to personal development. Because my mom suffered a nervous breakdown, I was 7, when she had her nervous breakdown. Um, just being with my mom, being my mom's caretaker. And my mom used to say to me, I often feel like you're the mother and I'm the child, you know. And she leaned on me emotionally. And when I was really young, there was a part of me that embraced that. That was like, yes, I'm a grown up. I always, as a little girl, I embraced being a grown up. It made me special. I'm more mature than those other little kids out there. While they're out there wasting their time on the playground, I'm reading Khalil Gibran. I'm being mature. I'm being wise.
You're the
Just
little
a 60-year-old kid. I just want to play. So I went through this process of, in my life, not being where I was, not being a little girl, but being a mother to my mother, being mature, and my mom would say, you're wise beyond your years. There was a time I took that as this compliment, but I also wore it in my life as, even when I was in school, I always felt separate and apart from, I didn't have close relationships. And moving to Texas was very impactful for me because it took me into this whole other world where I was set apart from. I was that girl from California, right? And so the feeling of, I finished school when I was 16, right? So I finished early, I studied ahead, always trying to not be where I was, get ahead of myself. I met your dad. I was a senior in high school. I was 16 years old. You know, I am cultivating an adult relationship rather than playing and having fun and being a senior. Doing
Low key, my dad was robbing the cradle.
Yeah, he was, like, for real though. Yeah, yeah. Back in the day, they would have called him R. Kelly, but we won't go there. Okay, that's a whole thing. Yeah, okay. But yeah, and people used to think he was crazy. What does this old ass man see in this? But I quote, and so here was an interesting thing, was that your dad appreciated my maturity. But he recognized my, like, oh, he would not, he's like, no, I ain't taking you no club, you a child. Yeah, no. So there were like boundaries when we met in our communication that no one ever placed on me before. I was always expected to be the mature one. And so I never let myself be youthful. I never let myself be this playful, kind of carefree, even though I loved life and had, there was a restrictedness about my carefreeness. And so I lived a lot of my life from a supposed to be. And quite frankly, that was a big challenge for me in being married and in my early life, taking on all of this, quote, adult life that I thrust myself into rather than grew into. My college days were consumed with going to class, doing my work, being a mom and a wife and a businesswoman, and for me, superwoman of, ooh, what else can I take on? Yeah, let me show you I can take it all on. And so the breaking point and the breakdown, and I, so many of the identifications of being challenged of who I was. So I'm going to kind of back up a little bit, because you asked me in terms of when I was in school. Coming to Texas, one of the things that I was challenged with was, because I was fair skinned and what I looked like and where I grew up or where I was going to school. I was in a school where I was one of 11 Black kids and 2 Hispanic, all the rest were white. I had never been in even when I was in California, it was very diverse. It was Asian, it was, Black, white, everything, right? And so white kids that I went to school with thought I was an oddity, the way I speak. Well, I came from the West Coast. I didn't talk like you did when you used to
travel. What you talking about, mama?
When you come back talking about the flow and the dough and lose your R's.
And the stove, we're going to the stove.
But it was so funny. So I would get, and just because of my interest, I was already in theater. That was just what I grew up with, right? My mom raised me in the arts. And so I remember registering. I'm standing in line, when we're registering for our classes. So I'm in the drama line, signing up for speech and drama. I'm the only Black, and by the way, I went to school when busing started. So my first year, there were 11 Black kids, I'm one. The next year, it's now 30% Black, and all those Black kids come from the other side of town. They coming from the other side of town, and they pissed off. Because they got to get up 3 times earlier than everybody else to get on a bus to go to a neighborhood that they don't live, So busing, it was like crazy. So it was a crazy time in the dynamic. And so there was a lot of resentment and anger, all of that taking place. I'm a kid, so I took a lot of that personally and all that. So again, I'm still the girl from California. And the kids used to always, you think you white. Why you over there in that speech line? You need to be over here, play some basketball or something. Why you over there? This is the line you might want to consider being in. Come to the speech line. But really and truly, the thing is that in reflection, I can see where all of us found these boxes and these masks that we fit into. They were told, because you're Black, you belong over here. Some of the kids, you're white, you belong over here. you grew up in this area. So there was all of this misidentification, and a real breakthrough for me. I was in a social studies class, and it was a group of girls. They used to hang out and wait for me because, they had decided they was just going to whip my ass.
Oh, man.
One of them, right? And every day, and this was the one, you think you white, blah, blah, blah. And we ended up in the same social studies class. And I remember the day we walked in, I was like, why me, Lord? Why me? So now I got the gang in the class. And when I gained their respect, because every time they see me, there go the little white black girl. She thinks she white, right? And in the midst of our social studies class, they started addressing the Watts riots. And all your mama's militant self came out because I was there.
Right.
It wasn't something that I heard about on the news. I did, but I was present. I was with my mother. I watched them burn Watts. I watched them paint that white Mary black to preserve the blackness in that neighborhood. I knew what was going on in Watts, not because of the media propaganda behind it, but I was there. They were talking about the Black Panthers. I knew who the Black Panthers were, not because of the media propaganda around the Black Panthers, but because I was one of the 9-year-old kids that I know my girl Teresa knows what I'm talking about, going over to Mozambique's record store, getting up every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning to go and pack food baskets for the elderly and going into the neighborhood as a group of children. That's what the Black Panthers represented and what they led for me. And so this thing about unmasking, that was a piece of me that was my truth. It was my identity that I connected with. And they could tell me they could tell me whatever they wanted. I thought I was cute. I thought I was white. But what you could not do for me, for Karen, Regina, Jaaz, Dorsey, KK, you could not question my blackness. And it wasn't about being against anybody. It was this love that I had for this beautiful community that showed me the truth of what I was born of and what I represented. And it was in the middle of this world around me that was condemning the very people that I saw that were holding our community together. So when this teacher started defaming the Black Panthers and Angela Davis, I stood up with my fist. Ngawa, Black Power, okay, hold up, wait a minute. You don't know what you're talking about. I took over the class. and in the words of Nikki Giovanni, all my sister self came out of me. And it was in that moment that these Black girls that questioned who I was and my blackness, because I went off on them too. I was like, every day you see me and you talk about my blackness and you don't even know what your history is about. And I just, it just started pouring out of me. And that mask came down, that mask of hiding behind my belief in what I felt and who I was. And because I let the light shine, because I let that mask come down, from that day forward, those girls never picked on me. They coming to me, asking me questions. Ooh, what else can you tell us? What do you know? And it was a moment for me of the identification of masking that I became aware of the gift of my voice and speaking up. And so that was a crossroads in terms of one of those areas of my mask that I was able to connect and say, never again will I allow myself to mask who I identify as a woman, as just a human being on the planet and what that represents to me.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to know from our peeps out there, I've seen a lot of people chime in. I'm so grateful to have the feedback. I want to know, like, from some of you people, like, What was a mask that you identified with, and where did you unmask? And really want to continue this journey with you.
Yeah,
I think,
let's continue the conversation on
yeah,
the comments. We don't even have to stay live, but like,
yeah,
we'll interact with that. But yeah, share with us. Share the video if you feel like someone can benefit from unmasking, hearing about unmasking our true story, because sometimes when we hear other people's stories, it empowers us. And then also, let's keep this conversation going. I think this is very important. Adrian said we need to have more conversations like this. And we really do, because it helps to free ourselves. So
yeah.
let's keep this going. Share this, comment. What are some areas where, you've unmasked? And also, this is a great opportunity for you to reflect on, are you ready to unmask? Because you know what your masks are right now.
Exactly. And, and if you're enjoying this conversation and you have something that you want to speak on, Genia and I, we want to hear from you. And this is a precursor intro to our upcoming podcast, Mad Chat, where we're going to be having the dialogue and really looking at, what are the masks that you're wearing and how do you unmask, and how can we just support our world and our community in releasing the mask so that we can shed our true light.
And live joyfully.
That's right. Like for real, right?
Yeah.
Not for fake, but for real.
So make sure you follow us. Mama, you want to put that up? You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mad Miracles fan page. We'll send out the link for the YouTube. If you missed this, of course, you can watch it on Facebook, but also this is going to be on YouTube. It'll be on our different platforms. We want to make sure that we're sharing our journey, because we know that our journey is not just about us.
Exactly. Yes.
And so we'll be here next week.
Yeah. Stay tuned for the post.
Say that again.
No, I was just telling you, stay tuned and we'll post it for the next.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
And then you can join the chat with us. And thank everybody for your comments. And like we said, let's keep this conversation going. Keep posting.
Yes. And Genia, thank you. Thank you so much for your open heart and your receiving and willingness to unmask and to receive. And I think that's so important as we share. And I want everybody to know that we're just so open to receiving you where you are. It's like what you mentioned about community, that it's not easy to unmask, because if I do, will you like who I am? Will you accept me for my truth? And we want you to know that we just want you to come as you are, and we receive you wherever you are. And we're here to shed and share our light together. So, Genia, I thank you for receiving mine, and I totally receive your light and love and appreciate you.
Yes, I love you.
All right. So until next time, don't let the madness overwhelm you. Let it lead you into the miracles, and come back and join us for our next tap in and series of madness and miracles. And in closing, I see T posted that she was the round brown girl, so she hid her pain by appearing to be happy and agreeable in relationships I give in order to get along. Wow. T, thank you so much for that. That's so powerful, and we'd like to dive into that and explore that with you if you're willing to share that in unmasking and where that journey led you. I know Teresa is going to be one of our guests on our upcoming Mad Chat, and so we want to hear your story and share that with the world, because what we find is that as we unmask with one another, we recognize, girl, you know what? I was wearing that mask too.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you know what? I was bearing that shame too. And we recognize that, you know what? We have all been hiding behind so many of the same masks. And guess what? We all have that same bright light of love and joy to share. So I'm looking forward to that, excited. So thank you all for hanging out with us on this Madness and Miracle Hour. And we'll see you on the next go round. Go out and create a magnificent week. And we'll see you on the next time. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.